InkProducts.com has now released their new Executive 2 series with our COC chips. COC chips are different than the ARC chip, and I'll explain why. A lot of the new Canons can use the ARC chip, but they can become unstable. The COC chip, which is a constant-on chip, does not become unstable. Now, on this system, we've had backflow dampers, ink shutoff, COC chips. And now I'm going to show you how to install it on an MX892, MX882. Also, the MG series will be exactly the same. Some of the components that you're going to get are going to be a little different. But you're going to get a bag with all our custom parts, and we're going to show you how to install this. And then we're going to show you how to shut off the ink monitor. Once the Canon ink monitor is shut off for all the colors, there's no need to remove the plug to reset the chip, so it doesn't become unstable and you don't get U codes like U150 codes. So now what you're going to do, turn the printer on, open it up, and let the cartridge assembly come over. Now you're going to need some Scotch tape. Now I've already taken out the Canon cartridges, so I'm going to bring it all the way over. And it comes over to the center, and then I'm going to reach behind the printer and unplug it. This way I can move the cartridge assembly back and forth. Now this is the ARC chip. It's got a different color background. Now on some of the printers, because of the firmware, they can become unstable, where the COC chip cannot. So now that I moved cartridge assembly over, now I'm going to install the cartridges. But before doing that, we need to balance the Executive Series 2 ink tanks. I'm going to slowly rock it. Now what I'm doing there is I'm taking the ink, because of shipping, from the isobaric chamber back into the ink chamber. This is where you can see what your levels of your ink. Okay, now after I do that a couple times, I'm just going to put it right to the side. Now, I'm going to close off the ink clip. This way when I take off the orange clips, I don't have ink leaking all over. And also we're going to give you a pair of rubber gloves to wear, so you don't have to get ink on your hands. So what I'm going to do, on this one we have this particular MX series, there's a little bridge that holds up the top. I'm going to take it off, take the orange clips off, and then we're going to put them in. And then we're going to put the T-bracket on. Okay, and all the parts and pieces. These are going to be the lid standoffs. They're going to be on there. You're going to get 2 of them. Now this is the interlock plug. That's going to go up in there. That's just so when we close the lid, it doesn't close all the way and crush the hose. But you still should be able to operate with no problem. Some extra hose clamps. This is the finest continuous ink system made, and we test every one of them. We own every one of the Canon printers. So before you buy it, we've already tested it. Now I just want to point this out. This is not a sponge. This is a high-tech fiber. So sponge is no good because it collects air, and also you can get algae in there, especially if you're using a poor quality ink. Now, before taking the orange clips off, put on the gloves we have supplied so you don't get ink on your hands. And I'm going to show you how to take the orange clips off. And then we're going to install the cartridges. Okay, now I put a piece of paper down, so I don't want to encase any ink drips. You might want to have a little paper towel handy, because sometimes you'll get a little ink to come out. Well, basically what we're going to do is you snap the front off, and then you can peel back the orange clip. And you want to save these orange clips. They're very important to save, should you have to remove the system. That's the way you take off the orange clips. Okay, now I've taken off all the clips. I group them together. Now, if you pick it up, you're going to see this brace is going to be in your way. Don't worry about it. Unless you want to put it in behind it, doesn't really matter. I'll show you how to fix that. But you want to get them down in there now. Okay, line them up. Oops, sorry. Line them up. Get them down in there. Okay, now you want to hear them click in. Make sure they're in. Now, if you have one with a brace, just lift the brace up and slide the hose underneath. It's just, there you go. Now, you can put it behind it, but I didn't do that. Okay, now we're going to do hose travel. We're going to put it in the T-bracket and do hose travel. So I'm going to push it all the way over, underneath to the left-hand side. Now you're going to take your hose bracket and you're going to place it down, and you're going to use some Scotch tape to hold it. This way you'll get the proper travel, and the hose bracket will be in the proper spot, because you don't want to stick it right down because you don't know. So as you can see, I've already done this printer, so I made a little mark right here. Okay, now I'm just going to tape it down, and then I'm going to run the hose through the T-bracket, and then we're going to do hose travel. And then there's going to be another hose bracket I'm going to put right here. Okay, now I've got the other hose bracket. I've temporarily taped down the T-bracket. I've got the other hose bracket. Now let me point this out. You don't want to block this area right here. That's where the interlock plug goes. So it thinks the lid is down all the way. So I'm going to put that in first right now. Now this can come in different colors. Then I know where to put that little hose bracket. You might want to put it on the hose first, then you can peel it and stick it down. Maybe use a little alcohol in that area to make sure there's no mold release grease from the plastic on there. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to peel it and stick that down. Okay, now I'm going to put the other bracket right about here. I had one over here, but I decided I'm going to put it right here. So you can peel and stick it right there. Okay, now you can see I left a little excess of hose on the top. So when I close the lid, it's not going to squeeze that hose together. Okay, leave it like that. Now go over here. Now we'll do hose travel. I'm going to push it back. Now you'll know if it's too tight or too loose. So I got all the way under to the right side. And I can bring it all the way back. There. So now I could take a marker and I can mark the area where the bracket should go, so then I can peel and stick it down. If you notice, I'm a little bit more this way, It doesn't really matter, as long as you get as close as you can. Okay, now I've peeled it, stuck it down. We use a two-sided adhesive tape, so if you have to move it, you can go get some new tape and just retape it. Now we'll do hose travel. Looks good. Okay, now you can move it back and forth, so it's not going to be too tight. Okay, now we're doing that hose travel all the way over to the left and all the way back. That looks pretty good. Now you want to make sure the hose is not going to hit the ribbon cables, so you might want to push it a little bit to the back. So I've got my interlock plug in, all my hose brackets in. I put down my T-bracket. Now we're going to put the lid standoffs on. Okay, one's going to go right here, and then you're going to put another one on the left side right here. That's so if you lay a heavy book or anything, you're not going to crush the hose back here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to put down the standoff bracket right here. So when you go to close it, it'll lay up on top of this. It won't lay down on the tray. So you want to peel and stick it pretty much in the center right here. Okay. Now when I lift the standoff, and it goes down, it's going to rest on that. Okay, now I've got the lid standoffs on each side, so then when I close it, it's going to come down, it's going to rest on those standoffs. Then, it's not going to crush the hose. Now some people want to cut this out here. You can if you want to. I don't think it really matters. Now we're going to plug it in and turn it on. But before we do that, I don't want to forget. Some of the printers, I want you to see up in here, they have a lid switch here. We give you, it's not for all the printers, but we give you a little block that's going to go up and push that little switch up so it thinks the top is all the way down. If not, the scanner may not register the document being in there. Okay, now I just push it up there. Take it out. It's a little bit too snug. You can trim it a little bit, but I wouldn't. You want that to be up in there. Want to be that, that's it. Now that's only for some of the MX series and some of the MG series. A lot of them don't have it. But if you need it, or your printer needs it, we'll supply it. Okay, let's close it up. And then we're going to plug it in. Okay, now I plugged it in. Now, this is very important. Go over here and open up the shutoff valve. See, being that shut off, you notice there wasn't ink leaking all over. Now we're going to open up the Executive Series, and we're going to remove just the back. That's the air plugs. If you don't remove those, you're not going to get the printer to print, and if you do it too long, you can damage your printer. So you want to make sure. Now, if you don't want to get ink on your fingers, use a little paper towel like I'm doing. Okay, now that everything's installed, I'm going to turn on the printer. I'm going to open this up. Now I've got the interlock plug in, so I can leave this open and watch my hose travel. It's going to register the chips. This is how you're watching it go back and forth. Now if it was too much hose or too little hose, now's the time you want to fix it. Remember, we've opened up the air plugs in the CIS system before we turn it on. Now it's checking the chips. It's going back and forth. Okay, now that's done. So it looks good. Let's close this. Okay, all the chips have been registered. So now let's go to setup. For setup, go to maintenance. Okay, I'm going to do a print nozzle. Press OK. Yes. Now you can see all the ink levels. Now when they go all the way down and you get the orange light to blink, the way you shut it off is hold down the stop button. But you got to wait till this little symbol right here, the orange light will come on. Let's see if I can peel back this setup. There you go, right there. When that comes on, you hold that down, it shuts off the color. Now, if you ever put new cartridges back in, all the ink levels will come back up. So it's not like you're damaging the printer. Now, once all these are shut off, you can just keep running continuous. You don't have to lift the lid like ARC chips. ARC chip, every time a color went out, you have to lift the lid, unplug it. Or turn the printer off, turn it on. You know, in the meantime, it does excessive cleaning. Now, I open the lid up, and I'm going to print a sheet so you can see. See how nice and smooth that is? That's what you want. That's it.